Handbrake cable on an Audi A3 second generation sportback with rear disc brakes. Find some suitable level ground to work on. Engine off, handbrake on, chop the front wheels, and you want to jack up the rear of the car. I'm using the car's seam jack. Just put it in place to start with. Take off the hubcap with the little wire clip that you get in the boot. That just pulls off. Loosen or crack off all the bolts. Then lift the car into the air. Take the wheel out and put it underneath the body for extra security. And find a suitable location to put your axle stand, which on these is an actual jacking point that's bolted to the body and part of the trailing arm mount just here. Do that on both sides, and this is where I encountered one of my first problems. I couldn't get the wheel locking nut off. What I found was the key was very shallow and easily rounded off. So I tried a number of methods to get it off. Socket wrench with a long bar. Then I used a manual impact driver, but the weak point was the key socket. I persisted for quite some time on this, but in the end I gave up and had to take it into my local friendly garage, who had a set of bolt extracting tools just for this job, but even they found it really difficult to get off. But with a little more patience they did eventually get it off. So a big shout out for Sean who helped me with that. And it's worth noting that if you get a problem that you can't really fix, then instead of making a mess of it, then it's always best to take it in somewhere that does know how to do it, as we often persist far too long before realising this. Once we've got the car supported, we can release the handbrake. Go into the back seat and take the ashtray out, and then the lower panel. Which just pulls out. To get access to the handbrake yoke, which uses a 10mm nut. I'm using a swan neck ring spanner here, which you want to be loosening off. Release the cables from the yoke. Now the original handbrake cables on these cars had a plastic ferrule going into a tube underneath the body, which can be quite stubborn to get out, so I'd recommend spraying some silicone spray down the tube from the top. Or some penetrating fluid if you've got one with a straw end that you can bend into the tube. You don't want to spray it into the car because it'll end up smelling. Just spray that down the tubes on both sides. Do the same underneath where the ferrule is. Unclip this little hanging clip while you're underneath. As you can see, the cable won't easily come out where the ferrule is. Waggle it from side to side to get the fluid to penetrate. I'll try a pair of pliers next. And if that doesn't work, then the next stage is to heat up the aluminium pipe a little bit to expand it, as these pipes corrode on the inside, jamming up on the end of the plastic ferrule. But be careful if you yank on the cable not to pull the pipe out of the inside. If it comes out a little bit, it's alright, you can push it back in as if you pull too much out, then you've got all the interior carpet to lift up, which will turn this into a much bigger job than you hoped. Looking at the end of the cable, you want to be releasing the end nipple, which as you've released it at the other end, it should be easy to get off. You can use a pair of plumber's pliers for this. Now if you look further along the trailing arm, there's a little connector that holds the cable. You need to release that, which is a T30 bolt, access from underneath, which is a little bit tricky. Open the clip up to get the cable off. You need to keep hold of the clip for the new one. Either take the clip off or depress these plastic tags at the side to release the ferrule and take it out through where the bellows are. It just pulls out. Now you can slide the end of the cable out from the mounting bracket. Just pulls out of the hole. Back to the ferrule underneath the car. I use some pipe wrenches on this, I think. I can hear it squeaking, it should come out now. Might be lucky with this one. Ah, got it out. Just got to jangle free the nipple at the cable end. It'll be stuck on the pipe end, so I have to go into the car to free that up. If you're not so lucky, as I said, use some heat on the pipe. You can actually use the nipple on the end of the cable as like a slide action by pulling the cable, and that'll bang up against the inside of the ferrule. Now it'll come out. If you do manage to pull the aluminium tube out a bit, then you can actually just feed it back in. But it is a bit of a wangle, as the other end has got a shoulder on that fits into a hole. The bracket, the mounting bracket that fits onto the central column, as you can see here on the right. But the one on the left has been dislodged. I mean, you can just see it at one side. But it's difficult to wangle it in place, especially as if you're on your own. So what I did with this one is put up a mirror like so, and then I put a bit of an Allen key, and I could just manage to get something in to the tube end and then pull it to one side to realign it, and then push underneath the tube, and it went in back into the slot. So that's the danger of these type of designs, especially when you're taking the difficult ferrules out. You just got to be mindful of not pulling the tube out. Once you've got the cable out, you want to clean inside the tube, get all the corrosion out there, all this white powder stuff. I'm using a drill bit. Check the length of the new cable with the old one, and that the fittings are the same. Sometimes a little bit different. The end's a little bit different on this one. It doesn't have the little clips. This is meant to have some metal clips externally, but it'll still work without. I can always fit some of those later. The length's the same. And then we look at the ferrules that are going into the tube underneath. The new one's metal now rather than plastic, so the new one I'll be able to put some copperies around that, which should help to stop it jamming in the pipe. Push the cable into the tube, it will come out at the other end, inside the car. Then what I've done is put some copperies on the end of this ferrule before slotting it in place. Put the hook back, attach the nipple onto the yoke, feed the end of the cable through the bracket, Put the ball end nipple back into the actuating lever. And again, I like to put some copperies on these end nipples. As I said, these type of ferrules on the bracket need a little clip to go on. It's like a U-shaped clip that clips on, so I'll have to get that later. But for now, it'll be okay. Moving up the trailing arm, I can put back the little clip that fastens to it, which is a bit fiddly to put back. And make sure the cable's in the right place up against the mounting bracket on the caliper. So I'll hold that in place flush while I tighten this screw. When you've done that, repeat on the other side. As you can see, there's quite a lot of corrosion inside these tubes. Now everything's in place and firmly attached at both ends. Go inside the car and pump the brakes a number of times to build up pressure to force the pads onto the discs at the back. Then all you've got to do is tighten the yoke nut inside the car, but do this in stages, because what you want to note is the lever arm position on each wheel. It should be just off the stops, which are here. And you're aiming to get about 1.5 to 2 millimeters gap in the handbrake off position. When you've done that, test the handbrake. Pull it on and off for a few times. And you should be done and good to go. You can check the even pressure on each wheel when if you put the wheels back on the car in this position, which is a good thing to do. Checking either side. If you put the handbrake on just the first notch, and then check each wheel, you should just be able to turn it round with a bit of resistance. And importantly, it should be even on both sides, which this one is. So I'm happy with that. If it isn't, you might have to look into it a bit further, and there could be a number of reasons why they're imbalanced. you might have to take the calipers off, wind them both back so they're in the base position and start again. Insert the rear box into the slots at the bottom and then push down and back and it'll clip into place. And the ashtray inserts with the lid open, lower that down into place and then you're done. Well, I hope this helped you out, guys, and at least gets you back on the road, all ready for your MOT test. Thank you for watching the channel. All I'm trying to do is make content that might be useful for anybody that wants to do this. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.